You have probably seen one of these videos by now. Maybe the title looked a lot like the one you clicked on today, the single document that stops the taxman taking 40% of your house. Or perhaps a smart-looking letter came through your door from a company you had never heard of, offering to set up a special trust that protects your family home from inheritance tax and from care fees, all for a fee of £2,000 or £3,000, with a gentle little warning that you really ought to get it sorted before it is too late. I want to talk to you very plainly about that promise today. There is a small grain of truth buried inside it. There is also a great deal that is, to put it kindly, a way of separating worried homeowners from their savings. By the time we are finished, you will understand exactly how inheritance tax on your home actually works, what the one genuinely useful document is, and why it matters so much, and how to recognize the firm selling you a fairy tale in about 10 seconds flat. Before we go a step further, one quick and honest note. Everything I am about to tell you is general information to help you understand the rules. It is not personal financial, tax, or legal advice. Everybody's situation is different, and for anything that affects your own home and your own family, you should check the official guidance or speak to a properly regulated professional. With that said, let me set out why this matters and, just as importantly, why you should not lose a single night's sleep over it. The 40% everyone is frightened of is inheritance tax. It is the tax that can be charged on what you leave behind when you die. And for a lot of people watching, the family home is the single biggest thing they will ever leave, so the fear is understandable. The picture in people's minds is of the children having to sell the family house just to settle a bill from HMRC. Here is the first piece of truth, and it should bring your shoulders down from around your ears. The great majority of estates in this country pay no inheritance tax at all. Fewer than 1 in 20 estates actually pays it, somewhere around 4 to 5% of deaths. More than 19 in 20 pay nothing. And even among the estates that do pay, very few hand over anything like the headline 40% of the whole lot because of the allowances I am about to explain. For most ordinary families, this is a worry that has been sold to them, not a bill that is coming for them. Let me explain how the thing actually works, because once you can see the shape of it, every clever sounding scheme falls apart in front of your eyes. Inheritance tax is charged at 40%, but it is only ever charged on the slice of your estate above a tax-free threshold. Everything underneath that threshold is taxed at nothing, zero. So the question that decides whether your family pays anything is not how much your house is worth. It is how much of your whole estate sits above the tax-free line. That tax-free line is built from two separate allowances. The first is called the nil-rate band. Every single person gets one. It is currently £325,000, and it has been stuck at that figure since 2009. That means the first £325,000 of anything you leave is free of inheritance tax, full stop. The second is called the Residence Nil Rate Band, and this is the one made specifically for your house. It is an extra £175,000 on top, and you get it when you leave your home to your direct descendants, your children, including stepchildren, adopted children, and foster children, or your grandchildren. Put the two together, and a single person can pass on up to £500,000 with no inheritance tax to pay. Now, here is where it gets genuinely cheerful for married couples and civil partners. Anything you leave to your husband, wife, or civil partner is completely exempt from inheritance tax with no limit at all. And when the first one of you dies, any allowances you did not use pass across to the survivor. So when the second one passes away, their estate can use two nil rate bands and two residence nil rate bands. Add that up, and a married couple or civil partnership can pass on up to £1 million, a full £1 million with no inheritance tax to pay, provided the home goes to the children or grandchildren. Just sit with that figure for a moment. A couple with a home, leaving everything down to their children, has a tax-free allowance of up to £1 million. If your house and your savings and everything else come to less than that, and for the overwhelming majority of families they do, then there is no inheritance tax to plan around, no trust to buy, and nothing for any salesman to fix. One more figure worth tucking away. That extra residence allowance starts to be taken away if the total estate is above £2 million. For every £2 you are over that mark, you lose £1 of the residence allowance. That only touches a small number of substantial estates, but if that is you, it is worth knowing. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. So let us deal with the star of the show, the one document, the special trust that supposedly lifts your house clean out of HMRC's reach. The version sold most often goes by a handful of comforting names: a family protection trust, an asset protection trust, a property protection trust, a lifetime trust. Those are marketing names, not proper legal categories. They are the words on the brochure chosen to sound like a safe pair of hands. The pitch is simple and seductive. Sign your home into this trust now while you are fit and well, and because you no longer technically own it, the taxman cannot count it when you are gone. And for most people, it is wrong. Here is why. There is a long-standing rule in tax law called the gift with reservation of benefit rule. It goes back to 1986, and it exists precisely to stop this trick. The rule says that if you give something away but carry on enjoying it, then for inheritance tax you have not really given it away at all. The taxman simply ignores the gift and counts the asset as still yours. The classic example is the one that catches people every single time. I sign my house over to a trust, but I carry on living in it, rent-free, just as before. To me, it feels as though I have given the house away. To HMRC, I have given away nothing. I am still living there. I still have the full benefit of it. So when I die, the whole value of that house is counted in my estate exactly as if I had never signed a thing. The trust cost me £3,000 and achieved, for tax, absolutely nothing. And it can be worse than nothing. When you put your home into a lifetime trust, you can actually lose access to the very allowances we just talked about. That spouse exemption and that £175,000 residence allowance are not always available to a home tied up in a trust. So some people have paid thousands of pounds for an arrangement that increases their inheritance tax rather than reducing it. On top of that, there can be capital gains tax problems when the property is eventually sold, and there can be ongoing tax charges on the trust itself every 10 years, none of which tends to feature in the glossy brochure. Trusts are not always wrong. A trust is a perfectly proper and sometimes very valuable tool. A solicitor might use one to protect money for a grandchild who is too young to inherit, or for a relative who is vulnerable, or as part of a carefully built plan for a genuinely large estate. The difference is that a real trust, set up for a real reason by a properly regulated professional who has looked at your whole situation, is a world away from a one-size-fits-all document sold off the back of a worrying letter or a frightening video. Now for the do-it-yourself version of the same mistake. I will just sign the house over to the children now, then it is out of my estate, and that is that. The instinct is understandable, it feels generous, and it feels simple, but in practice, it is one of the most reliable ways to create a problem you thought you were solving. The first reason you already know. If you give the house to your children and carry on living in it without paying them a full market rent, that is a gift with reservation of benefit, and the house stays in your estate for tax. You have given away legal ownership of your own home and gained nothing in return. But what about the 7-year rule? Surely if I survive 7 years, it is fine. The 7-year rule is real, but it only works for a genuine gift, one where you truly let go. To make giving away your home actually count for tax, you would generally have to move out or pay your children the full going rent for the rest of your life. Very few people are willing to become a tenant in their own home, and quite right too. There is more that can go wrong. Once the house is legally your children's, it is exposed to their lives, not just yours. If a child divorces, your home can be pulled into the settlement. If a child runs into business trouble or is made bankrupt, your home is now one of their assets. And if you fall out, which sadly does happen in families, you have signed away the roof over your head. There is a third thread I have to pull on because the firms selling these trusts lean on it heavily. People hear about the 40% and they tangle it up with a completely different fear. The council will take my house to pay for my care. These are two separate things run by different people under different rules. The salesmen love to blur them together so that one expensive product appears to solve both. Inheritance tax is a tax on your estate after you die, collected by HMRC. Care fees are means tested by your local council while you are still alive. Whether your home counts in that assessment depends very much on your circumstances. If your partner is still living in the home, for instance, its value is generally set aside and not counted at all. Signing your home into a trust to dodge future care fees does not reliably work either. Councils have a rule about what they call deliberate deprivation of assets. If it looks as though you gave away your home in order to avoid paying for care you could see coming, the council is entitled to carry on assessing you as though you still owned it. And the comforting line some firms spin that if you did it more than 7 years ago, you are safe is simply not true for care fees. That 7-year idea comes from inheritance tax and has nothing to do with how councils assess care costs. If care costs are a live worry for your family, that is a conversation to have with your council and with a regulated advisor, not with a firm selling a single trust as the answer to everything. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. So if the special trust is, for most people, a solution to a problem they do not have, what is the one document that genuinely protects your family and your home? It is the most ordinary, unglamorous thing in the world. It is a proper, valid, well drawn up will. Nobody is going to put that on a flashy thumbnail, but a good will does not magically delete the 40%. What it does is make absolutely sure you actually use all the allowances you are entitled to instead of accidentally throwing them away. That is where the real money is kept or lost. Think about what happens if you die without a will. You die what the law calls intestate, and a fixed set of rules decides who gets what. For a married couple, that can mean the allowances are not used as cleverly as they could have been, and those rules can affect whether the home passes to your children in the way that secures that extra £175,000 residence allowance. And if you are not married but live with a partner, the intestacy rules give them nothing, not the house, not a share, nothing automatically, no matter how many years you were together. The only thing that protects an unmarried partner is a will. A will lets you leave everything to your spouse, which is exempt and carries your unused allowances across to them. It makes sure the home is left to your children or grandchildren, so the residence allowance is captured. It puts your wishes beyond argument, so your family is not left untangling a mess at the worst possible time. A will is powerful, but a badly written one, or a cheap kit filled in wrong at the kitchen table, can cause as many problems as having none at all. For anything beyond the very simplest situation, use a solicitor to draw up or check your will. For most of you, A will and those allowances are the whole story. But some of you will have larger estates that genuinely sit above the line, and you deserve to know the legitimate, lawful ways an inheritance tax bill is actually reduced. The biggest one we have already met. Leave assets to your husband, wife, or civil partner, and there is no inheritance tax on them at all. Make sure the home is left to your direct descendants, so you claim the residence allowance. That single step is worth up to £175,000 per person off the taxable total. Then there is genuine lifetime giving, done properly. If you make an outright gift to a person, truly letting go of it, and you then live for 7 more years, that gift falls right out of your estate. On top of that, there are smaller allowances you can use every year without even starting that 7-year clock. You can give away up to £3,000 in total each tax year. You can make small gifts of up to £250 to as many different people as you like. You can give generous wedding gifts. And if you have more income coming in than you actually spend, you can make regular gifts out of that surplus income, which can be very useful for a comfortable retiree helping the grandchildren along. There is also a quietly generous quirk for the charitably minded. If you leave at least 10% of your net estate to charity, the rate of inheritance tax on the rest drops from 40% to 36%. And for estates where a bill is genuinely unavoidable, a regulated financial advisor might suggest a life insurance policy written into trust specifically so there is a tax-free lump sum ready to pay the inheritance tax when the time comes, so the family is not forced to sell the house in a hurry. Every single one of these tools only matters if your estate is genuinely over the thresholds in the first place. If you and your spouse are comfortably under that £1,000,000, please do not go gifting away money. You might one day need to solve a tax bill that was never going to exist. 2 genuine changes are worth knowing about. The first is the freeze on thresholds. Both the £325,000 and the £175,000 allowances are now frozen all the way to April 2031. The numbers simply are not going up, but because prices and savings keep rising while those lines stay put, a slowly growing number of families will find themselves just over the threshold over the coming years. That is a reason to keep half an eye on where your estate stands, not a reason to do anything rash. The second is a real change that has been announced and dated. From April 2027, money left in most private pension pots, which until now has generally sat outside inheritance tax, will start to be counted as part of your estate. If you have been thinking of your pension as a tax-free pot to pass on, that is genuinely worth a conversation with a regulated advisor before that date arrives. Notice what those 2 changes have in common. They were announced openly. They carry a clear date, and they are public knowledge. Set that against the vague act now, before it is too late you get from the trust sellers, and you will start to spot the difference instantly. So let me gather up the single biggest mistake I see good, careful people make. The mistake is paying a firm thousands of pounds to protect your house from the 40% when, first, your estate may well never have faced any inheritance tax to begin with, and second, the very arrangement they are selling often does not do what they claim and can leave you worse off. People walk into it from the best of motives. They want to protect their children. They are told there is a clever document that does it, and they sign because the person across the table sounds confident and the letter looked official. There is no single magic document that stops inheritance tax. The 40% is real, but it only ever bites on the slice of an estate above some very generous allowances, allowances that already cover the great majority of families completely. The honest tools are ordinary and mostly free or cheap. A sensible will, leaving the home down the family. using the spouse exemption, modest, genuine gifts within the rules. And for the minority with genuinely large or complicated estates, real advice from a properly regulated professional who looks at your whole picture. Anyone who tells you they can lift your house out of tax with a single signature for a few £1,000s has just told you everything you need to know about them. Here is your sensible next step, and most of it costs nothing. Add up your home, your savings, any investments, and anything else of value, and take off any mortgage or debts. If you are a married couple with a home you plan to leave to your children, and the total comes in under that £1 million combined allowance, you can very likely stop worrying about inheritance tax entirely. For a single person, the figure to keep in mind is up to £500,000. If you are comfortably below, breathe out. Whatever your situation, make sure you have a valid, up-to-date will. If you have not looked at it in years, dig it out and check it still says what you want. If your estate is genuinely large or complicated, get proper, regulated advice. Look for a solicitor who is a member of STEP, the Society of Trust and Estate Practitioners, or speak to a regulated financial advisor. You can check whether a firm is properly authorized on the Financial Conduct Authority's register and be properly skeptical of any unsolicited offer. If a letter or seminar invites you to protect your home with a special trust, do not sign anything on the day. Take it away, sleep on it, and run it past an independent solicitor who is not the one selling it. For trustworthy, free starting points, the government's own pages at gov.uk explain inheritance tax in proper detail. Money Helper, the government-backed free money guidance service, is excellent and impartial. Citizens' advice can help too. And if your worry is really about care costs, your local council and a charity like Age UK are the right places to start, not a trust salesman. The truth does not need to frighten you into signing today. It can afford to let you go away and think. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next one.